Much, Molly, for giving me the honor to be with you, to share a stage with you. Um, it is also an honor because when I first met you there, International Women's Forum, I thought, yes, this is a mentor for communication that I'm always looking for. And this gives me an honor that you have shared your consent. And I would like to share a mentor who I always look forward to. I interact with her and I ask her to share about her book, which is We Have Received the News. That's Amazon's bestseller. Thank you so much, Molly, for sharing the your presence, your kindness. So let us begin by asking the very first questions. Why the journey that you have started has began? I mean, let us go back to the times when you thought, okay, this is the path that I really want to continue, and this is the thing that I really want to pursue. So how this all started, Molly?
Yeah, it's a big story. First, let me honor you, Farhat. Like you have, it's been a real privilege to spend time to get to know you. And the International Women's Forum is just a blessing for me to meet many bright souls like you. And it lights me up to see you in the world shining brightly and helping so many people. And I want to offer to all of our listeners and viewers out there that that light is within you. And your communication at the fundamental level is how others experience you. And your ability to be able to speak up skillfully and express yourself with what you think needs to be said is the most life-changing skill. However, as Farhat mentioned, it is not something we're actually taught, which I just think is criminal in 2025. And I literally am on a mission from above to change all that so that everyone can find their authentic voice and use it powerfully, positively, and productively. So this all starts, and I have to tell you, I grew up. My parents were from overseas. My mom is from Hong Kong. My dad is from the mainland of China, and they were very pioneering and came to America and actually never intended to stay. But I grew up speaking basically Cantonese at home and didn't speak English until I was about five. I have two sisters, and we had one black, one Korean, and one Chinese family. That was us. And not that it was, a racist kind of thing at all, but, kids can be mean. So always wanting to fit in, only using yellow crayons to draw stick figures. Like, heaven forbid you would use a dark color for the hair, right? And so I remember what it was like to just painfully always want to fit in, to do the right thing, to say the right thing, to be, to feel belonging. And I had a great childhood, so none of this is anything to be feeling sorry for. But, I have to say I was painfully shy and just didn't really feel like anything that I could say would really matter. And that's just a crummy feeling, to be honest with you. And I went to college, I was an engineer. So by training, I'm kind of a geek. So I use this, I say this because some of you out there might be thinking, oh, I'm an introvert. I'm an introvert, right? Or, oh, I can't. And so I think a lot of this is your own conversation with yourself first and foremost. You have to matter to yourself. You can't ask other people to think you're confident if deep down you don't have an inner confidence. And I want to help unleash that for you, right? So I have a great career. And so how this happened for Hot is a complete accident, complete and utter accident. And so I just want to embrace the serendipity of life, folks. And lots of things can happen where people can be lucky. I think you learn to be lucky. And so I ended up I was in my own consultancy. We can talk about my career later, but I was in big companies. Then I started my own consultancy because I really wanted to help senior management teams win as one, which means to commit to each other's success so that they build a powerful chemistry to lead together. And all the senior leaders want everyone else to work like a team. However, quite a few actually do not work well as a team themselves. And I'm like, that is not okay because culture starts at the top. So I had my own consultancy in 2014. In about 2017, I meet Marshall Goldsmith, world's number one executive coach, has coached the top 200 CEOs, and changes my life forever. Because Marshall's the first person I ever met who was literally about generously giving away everything he knew for free, expecting nothing in return. Expecting nothing in return. So that idea of being able to say, hey, how can I help? How can I help, Farhat? without expecting that, well, Far Heart's going to help me back when I help her back. Like it's a trade. And that takes a lot of inner strength and groundedness, right? And so then
Mm.
due to some friends in this Marshall Goldsmith 100 coaches community, which I have a privilege to be a part of, these top coaches in the world. I put a video on LinkedIn, and folks, I am like an introverted person, so me putting a video on LinkedIn is like me being an NBA superstar. There's no way. So a friend said, "Oh, just put it on there. It doesn't really matter." And I put a video in 2000, I guess maybe 19 of a junior person speaking up in a room full of management, which is what? The scariest thing you could possibly do, right? And it's 90 seconds. You think 10 people will look at it. Ultimately, 36,000 people looked at this thing. And so it started this just cascade of me doing a video every week. It took over my life. I mean, I literally was just in service. I just wanted to help people. And I could tell there was an unmet need of people wanting to speak up and not knowing how. I got asked, "Do you want to have your own radio show?" I'm like, "Yes." I don't even know what it's like. So every week I did a live radio show. And so this whole thing took off or hot to the point of I realized that this is something the world needs. I had the privilege to be stewarding this. I have Marshall, I have Ken Blanchard, who sold 25 million books, Alan Mulally, arguably top CEO in the world, as contributing, showing you how much really it adds value in the real life of work, right? So this is not some theoretical thing, but say it skillfully is fundamentally, I think, your biggest success factor in life. So it's a little bit
Yeah.
long-winded, but I thought I'd give people the context because it's not some obvious thing that I came out of the womb and this is where I would be today with you.
Yeah, Molly, when you were sharing about your own experience, is it like you're finding Molly in this entire conversation, in this entire secret of life that you are in at the moment right now? It is like, is it like you find yourself first and then go out and tell others, or it is otherwise? How you say that? I mean,
That's great. So this is a really great question. So thank you for asking it. And I think the journey of getting to know ourselves for who we really are is a lifelong one. We're never there because it's a new me every day. Okay. So giving
yes,
people a chance to appreciate maybe you were this way. No one says you have to be that way forever. So there's a new me. And I think there's periods of step where you kind of get to a point of, wait a second, I get a sense of who I am. And I think that's a very important point of arrival because if you don't get there, you're still kind of struggling with yourself. And so I feel like I got to a point with that. I actually took an executive coaching program. I wasn't trying to be an executive coach, but it's the organization and relationship systems coaching. And it really helped me get to know me, appreciate me, and be a better me. And being in good relationship with myself is what I got out of that. And that was in the, gosh, probably 2010,
yeah,
2006, right? So from that point on, I was able to crystallize my passion and purpose for the world. And then it was just on fire. I mean, I just have to tell you that I'm always learning about myself. I'm giving myself permission to learn about myself, and I'm struggling a lot less with myself. I mean, so much in my early years was Molly fighting Molly, right? You're like, well, and my
yes,
mantra for
exactly.
folks is, do you want to be your best friend or do you want to be your worst enemy? You pick, right? You want
Yeah,
to be your worst
exactly.
enemy, tell the horrible things to yourself. Oh, you're not worth it. You're ridiculous,
Exactly.
right? I mean, everyone out there
Yeah,
has got to be laughing, right? This is what's going on. So I want to normalize this because even if you are the CEO or you're the chairman of the board or you're a summer intern, we're all going through this, folks. We're
yeah,
much more similar than not. And I want
exactly.
folks to realize that.
Yeah. Molly, in our life, mentors play a very important, significant role. I know you have some of the most brilliant people beginning from your home, at your workplace, and across this circle of life that you're having. So, who are those meaningful people or mentors that have shaped you, the Molly that you are right now?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. There's so many, and I want to just offer that there have been mentoring moments. It might be someone I've only met once or someone I don't really know that well, but they said something that I was in a position to be able to take it in, internalize it, and do something with. So I want to just broaden that term for mentoring in its really biggest sense. So first of all, I was very fortunate because kids don't get to pick their parents to have spectacular parents who are thankfully still with us. And so having a role model of what integrity, of what honesty, of what hard work, of what discipline, of what commitment. I mean, this is that we learned in the house. And so for that, I am eternally grateful. And then I had the blessing of so many caring teachers in school. I mean, yes, we had some that were very harsh or a few that we didn't think were so great. But for the most part, in my education, just caring, well-intentioned, super expert teachers to learn from. And then, throughout my career in different chapters, there were people here and there. I think sometimes you learn a lot from the people you don't want to be like. And I think that's
Yeah,
also something,
exactly.
not to make that necessarily bad or wrong, but just to realize, hey, that's not a fit for me.
Hmm.
And so, I worked with the CEO, Dick Heckman, who was just a visionary, and he could sell ice to an Eskimo. And so he, was my first kind of big company thing. We were at US Filter. We were on the floor of the American Stock Exchange. We moved to the New York Stock Exchange, and the heyday of the Wall Street roll-ups. And so to be running around integrating companies as a young person was a real privilege. And to be kind of inventing it, creating it as we go, I think that's something that I'm someone who thrives in ambiguity. I don't need to have the path really set. And so I like that environment. So that was a big chapter for me. And I went to Cisco Systems with just working at a really amazing team. And what I would say to folks is, most people will not have a chance to see how great they can be, right? So for those of you out there who will pursue the opportunities to see how great you can be, that's a real privilege, and I would say go for it. And if you fail trying to do something great. That's awesome. And when you do that, you have a chance to be on truly high performing teams. And it took me a long time, Farhat, to realize that a lot of people have never experienced a super high performing team. So you don't really even know what it's like. And so I would encourage folks to pursue that and think about that. How can we raise the bar and, be our very best? Because when you have those kinds of teams, those kind of experiences, those teams, you remember everyone's name. It really changes you for life, and it keeps the bar high. And so I would say that Marshall, obviously, and then, the late, great Frances Hesselbein, she passed away at 107 years old. Peter Drucker called her one of the top CEOs on the planet. I mean, she was talking about diversity a million years ago, right? So
Yeah.
there's a defining moments documentary about Frances that I highly recommend. But she was a pioneer, and I'm telling you, she was inside her core like titanium, like a very strong woman, but led with compassion and with love and just always opening doors. And no one has ever been that present. You went to her and she was with you 1000%. And I would hope to pay attention 1/10 the amount if she did. But Frances, for sure, really, we have a little saying, be like Francis. If you be like Francis, you're going to do okay. So that's just a short list. I could go on and on and on about. I mean, I would
Yeah.
also tell you that I'm a sports person, so a lot of the professional athletes out there
Yeah.
are very inspiring to me, and I look to them and how they
I
hold
think those,
themselves and
yeah.
how they work through it. I mean, I could go on and
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, it's so beautiful to see all those people who had shaped you, and they're connected and they're continuously shaping the other people. So you are a shaper yourselves. You have been shaping the leadership in people, CEOs, and very complex environments that you have been helping those leaders to perform their very best. So what are some of the challenges that you have witnessed are very much common, and what has been your aha moment? Okay, this is the thing. If I change in a person, then he or she can perform very well, or like that. So,
Yeah.
what are those
Yeah.
beautiful moments that you would like to share? And you always remember, you
Yeah.
lie down, you say, "Oh, that's the thing that I did," you know.
Yeah. So this is so great. People would love to think there's this one thing, and you just put the key in and you turn it and you unlock it, and oh, fabulous, amazing things happen. And that is unfortunately not how it actually works. I would say the one key, however, is one being grounded in oneself and really being intentional. Because it's very natural for us to think about number one over here. What's going to work for me? And that ability to be grounded in oneself and truly serve the other, to truly serve the other, means that you can be your best self to help bring out what that person needs. So that's first and foremost. I always call that leading ourselves, right? Leading myself. And then I
Yeah.
think with other folks, the thing that's really missing, number one thing I see missing in companies of any size, anywhere, doing anything, is this lack of shared reality, meaning people being on the same page about the objective facts and the human experience. And what's in that is that people don't know what it's like for other people. We're so in our own shoes to actually get out of our shoes and put on the other person's shoes for a moment and really empathize with their experience. That's hard for a lot of people. And so that ability to ask the questions so that someone can think, wait a second, it's not about me, right? And what is it like for Farhad? I mean, gosh, I've never asked her what it's like, right? So it opens a door for people connecting truly as human beings. And then I think when you think about change, it's especially if you've seen a lot, you're like, I can see what this person needs to do. It's not hard to know the answer. The real trick is how can you activate a driver to make a change for someone? For some people, it's pain, for some people, it's gain, but how do you create an opening that someone says to themselves, I need to make a change. I'm not going to convince, this is not my job to convince someone. You have to decide, I want to be better. I want to stop, having this kind of an issue or not. And I think that part of it is determining how coachable people are. Some folks will fight kicking and screaming, and ultimately you'll get there. But I think there's some who can't or won't, and that's where I think one has to make a call. You have to. It's up to them. It's up to people to make their choice.
Yeah, exactly. And this is, I think that your concept of winning as one, right? Is it like that concept that you had been sharing on regular basis, winning as one? What exactly is it? Is it like you are winning as a human or you are winning as a company?
So this is great. Win as one to me is about starting with, I think culture starts at the top, and that's that notion of leaders coming together and truly knowing each other well enough, meaning both the strengths and the weaknesses. And as a leader, what got you here, realizing that what got us here doesn't get us there, that's a hard switch because you got there by being right, by being the top, by knowing the answers. And that's not what we need at the very top. And so that ability for people to be real, to embrace the vulnerability that is a must for trust. That has to start to me at the top. And if the top has that, if they can pull, 8 to 12 or however many leaders in a room and say, okay, right, shields are down. We need to be able to function as a team in order to serve the whole and for us to lead powerfully together and guide this
Yeah.
organization to its greatest heights. It requires us to really be in it for each other. The championship teams, Farhat, are playing the game for each other. They're not playing for me to look fabulous. Got the most points, right? They're looking for the team to ratchet up the win. So that I think is it. And so I think that it is possible to have the individual and the collective wins, and there's trade-offs, right? And so let me give a firm example. At the end of the year, everyone wants more headcount. Marketing wants more headcount. Engineering wants more headcount. No one says, "Oh, I don't need any more heads." No one.
Exactly.
And let's say the marketing people, because they're so slick, do the best presentation. So they
Yeah.
win the new headcount. And so if you had an accurate shared reality, though, you'd say, well, you know what? We really need more engineering headcount. So we have
Yeah.
won the battle, marketing's won the battle, but the company lost the war. And so win as one
Oh,
is saying, hey, we want to really, at the very top, serve the whole. And the only way to align on that is if we have an accurate shared reality and realize that it isn't about every single department winning per se. It's about how are we contributing in a way that adds up to 1 and 1 equals 11. And that
exactly.
takes skill, it takes conversations, some of them
Exactly.
tough, right? And it takes egos in check. And for
Right.
some, let's say the marketing person doesn't get the headcount. Hey, that's amazing. I really appreciate you folks working with the size team you have so that engineering could have a few more heads that are going to help us to create better products. Win-win,
Yeah.
right? So that ability to appreciate people. I know it sounds really simple sometimes when Molly does it. Folks, this is all about you finding the words
Exactly.
that work for you and practicing them.
Exactly. Thank you, Molly, for such an important concept. I mean, this philosophy and this idea of winning as one, if the companies may do, they will win as one. So come back to your amazing, powerful book. What was the motivation of writing this important, powerful, significant book, and why now?
So this
Because
is
we
a
are
great
living
question.
in such a turbulent times, and
Yeah.
say it skillfully, has such an important meaning in this time. So what was the motivation and why now?
Yeah, so this is a really great question because I got involved and started Say It Skillfully, 2019. And I immediately started thinking about a book because I'm part of this big coaching community where people have written not one or two for Hop, but they've written 5 and 10 and 30 books. So everyone has a book. So I started this idea
Yeah,
of writing a book, but not, because I felt I had to or supposed to. And then I got partway through it and I was like, time out. This is not, I'm an intuitive person. And I was like, this is not the right time. It's not the right place. And I focused on creating a course. I have an online program, Say It Skillfully 101, which I encourage everyone to go
yeah,
check out because this is not a skill to talk about. It's a skill that you have to
exactly.
practice. And I pulled together a very basic curriculum, series of 10 videos or so, 12 videos, and it encouraged people to put it into action. And I know I've witnessed it that it will help people. And so I put a
Yeah,
lot of energy into how could I help people, to your point, make the change, the behavioral, the skills changes so that they could go
exactly.
there. And so then I reverse engineered it. So then at the point where I'm like, okay, I now have a full story and I have an understanding of what Say It Skillfully can be for the world. Because when I first started, I didn't really no, I have a podcast, and I started with hosting people. They would call in and say, "Molly, I don't think my boss is supporting me. Molly, I don't know how to give this colleague some feedback that they're not being a team player." And then as I started interviewing guests, special guests who were super successful people, by the way, I
Mm.
realized that the ones I most admired had a way of speaking that really showed how grounded they were in themselves. And so it gave rise to this me, you, we framework, that simple 3-part framework that really is the crux of a skillful conversation. And so this whole thing, if you can imagine, has been an iterative, collective, creative process. And so at the
Yeah,
book now, I was able to package all of that and really summarize in one text to kind of help people have that aha and
yeah,
then be able to decide what you want to do with it. And to give you an idea, I have a CEO, I'm on the board of a company, and he's known me for like 7 years. She goes, Molly, I've kind of heard a lot from you. I've like learned a lot, but I got the book. So he's like, I got through the first 2 chapters of this book. He goes, I realize there's a lot more. And so it was very gratifying for me because the book really made him think. It provoked thought. And I think that's the number one place for to be because so many people, when it comes to communication, think, oh, everyone out there is the problem. I'm good here. Everyone out here, geez, they're not doing this. They don't get it. And the moment you
yeah,
can step back and say, wait a second, what part of this
yeah,
can I own? Then we shift, right? It's a huge shift.
yeah. I mean, and especially in this moment in time, this book is such an important and powerful, not just for the companies themselves, the CEOs. I think the bigger leaders, I think they also need to realize and read this book. And I'll be sharing with all of you about the link. You will get the link to buy this book as immediately as possible as we are having this conversation with amazing Molly Chang. My next question is about the me you framework, the one that you always admire to share. Can you walk us through the entire framework and helping us understand exactly the depth of it? For example, especially people who are not only at the top, but they're who are just entering into the corporate world or any world that they want to enter, even personal or
Yeah.
professional. I think this fits very much valuably on the lives of the people. So
Yeah.
can you walk us through the
I absolutely am thrilled to. And I appreciate your calling out the tough times here. And I think that this is a time to use our voices with compassion, with care,
process?
with clarity. And I do think that it's easy to go, I can't believe they. can you and you know, I am not condoning poor behavior, but we all need to find a way to create the opening for the other side to consider. And the same way that we would hope to be open as well. And I know that that can be hard. And so I think that that is the ultimate in the managing of myself and saying, what do I stand for? Do I stand for being right? Do I stand for I have to look good? Or do I stand for doing what I can do to help us all collectively move forward, to serve a
Yeah.
greater good? And can I do that in a way without necessarily making other people wrong or bad? I do think
Exactly.
that folks who have these poor behaviors, I think sometimes we enable it. We let it go. And you
Yeah.
might say, well, we can't say that. I said, okay, if you don't think you can call out that bad behavior, you're enabling that bad behavior to persist. And I would
Correct.
assume positive intention. If you have true bad actors, let's take that out. Okay. If you're in an environment where someone doesn't want to hear it, just flat out does not care, you know, being more skillful is a waste of time, right? The point is
Exactly.
you have to go to some other pond and figure out a way to create positive change. So picking where you want to make an impact is important. But to the framework, it's, the me part is leading myself first, right? And what is going on for me? Am I sad? I'm frustrated. Okay, you're frustrated, legitimately so. But is showing up to a conversation frustrated going to serve you? And letting go of the negative emotions is
Mhm.
essential to best serve the work, right? So if you can't get out of your own way, it's going to be long. It's going to be a long day. And that ability to also know, like, what do I want to have happen?
Yeah.
So many people come to me, oh, my boss, this or that. I said, well, okay, what do you want to have happen when you talk to your boss? And I get the thinking, well, you need to know, what do you want to have happen? And like any
Yeah.
project, we would never just randomly start working. We would say, here's the goal of the project, and here's what success looks like. So I encourage folks to have that intention. And when you have an intention, which may just be, I want to open the door and listen to what the other person has to say. Maybe it's not
Exactly.
solving the problem in the first conversation. Okay. And I understand,
Exactly.
folks, we're about doing. If you don't do, execute, execute, execute. Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes you hold it back, right? And focus on
That's
the
exactly.
relational part. So that's the me part. The you part is this relational piece, and that's that ability to really empathize what's going on for that other person so that you two truly connect as human beings, not as coworkers, as human beings. And
Exactly.
connection is so fundamental because that's the only way you can influence someone. And if if you can't influence, you have no chance of leading other people. And so this idea
Exactly.
of connecting as a human being, empathizing doesn't, you're doing your best to try to understand what it's like for someone you may not know, but when they see that you're trying to understand what it's like for them, that goes a long ways, right? And so when
Yeah.
you can connect the you part, you also have more information about how can you say something that will they can receive better because you need to kind of understand where they're at. And at the highest
Exactly.
level, who are we together? We're all in the same webinar in the YouTube, but each of us
Yeah.
is having a different experience of it, right? So
Exactly.
empathetically understanding what it's like for each other to walk in each other's shoes is
Yes.
absolutely fundamental to effective collaboration,
Exactly.
powerful group identity, and
Exactly.
sustaining success. So this is a
Exactly.
simple framework. I do it all day, instantaneously. I just do it. It might take 15 seconds. It might take
Exactly.
30 minutes. Okay.
Exactly.
But if you can build the skill, you can keep yourself in check, which I think is the hardest part. 80% of effective communication is within the self.
Yes. Outstanding again. You have co-authored this book with Marshall Goldsmith, which is again a powerful figure in his own domain. So how did this book's direction has shaped because of his presence as a co-author with yourself? So how does that
Yeah.
collaboration look like?
Oh my gosh, so amazing. So Marshall is an honorary father. Thank you, Marshall. He has made
Right.
my life so much better. And there's not one day that goes by where something I have learned from him has not made a huge impact on how I
Right.
behave or what I do. So I'm grateful. And so I started this book to start the book. And he's very supportive of the book. He's written or edited 57, I think now with ours 58 books. So he knows a little bit about books. He sold over 4 million himself, which is just,
Yeah.
like off the charts. And we got going on it. And then I don't really remember how it happened, to be very honest, but somehow it was like, maybe I asked if you would write the book with me, and he just said, any way that I can be helpful, I'll be helpful. And so I think I said, yeah, I think if you co-author, so you can have different ways people can write a foreword or whatever. I said, I think as a co-author, it would be very powerful. And here's why. Do I wish that all the leaders in the world were super, super skillful so that they created space for everyone to say what they needed to say and that they could coach up everybody? Yes, that's what I would love to have. I will be off the planet before we can have an epiphany for all the leaders. So I wanted to create something that really could
Yeah.
resonate throughout an organization, throughout, which means you're appealing to everyone, which is not an easy thing. There's a tension there. And I wanted
Yeah.
people, wherever you were at the base of an organization, to realize that you are both part of the problem and part of the solution. And the key is recognizing when we're part of the problem, because folks, we at some point always are part of the problem, and then making that conscious choice to be
Yes.
more part of the solution, right? And so that was my way of helping leaders who think they're so accessible and want to be accessible, perhaps realize that their employee base doesn't think so. That's the
Exactly.
gap. It's just not that complicated. And so this idea of really coaching up people in their communication fully, just in order to have both lenses, who could be better than Marshall, who's coached the top 200 CEOs because he
Exactly.
can speak from experience. Everything in Say It Skillfully is what he works with on the top CEOs. So then it also helps
Exactly.
the people realize, oh my gosh, my amazing leader has the same struggles, some
Yes.
different conversations, but the similar struggles. And I think as a
Yeah.
human being, I'm just going to tell you, it is the most empowering skill. And to your point,
Yeah.
it's our cherished relationships at home. I've had people say,
Yeah.
it's great if I'm a better, marketing lead or project manager, but I'm a better mother, father, daughter, cousin, sister, uncle. And that's where it matters. That's where it
Exactly.
really, really matters. And so I know how empowering it is. And I come from a place where I realized I remembered when it wasn't, and it was a bad feeling. And so
Mm.
for me to feel free, this freedom, I just want that for all of you to have the freedom to be able to speak up with what you think needs to be said in a way that's true to yourself, but also has the best chance of being received. And I do
Yeah.
want to say, folks, you can't make someone listen or make them do anything. So don't put so much pressure on yourself. You show
Yeah.
up the best way possible with the caring and the positive intention to make a greater good, right? And that's what you can control. And if you do what you think
Yeah.
is right to the best of your ability, you can sleep well at night. And in the book, I
Yeah.
talk about just
Exactly.
having peace of mind. I mean, it's just that basic because you can't own the result. The results are the results are the results. They happen or not.
Exactly.
But you do what
Yeah.
you can in the process to try to tee it up.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Molly, for this amazing. I mean, this I sense that there is a lot more learning, not only doing and writing book together with Marshall, but also it's a growth process when you're co-authoring with I mean, co-author. It's a growth process. So my next question is about there are many readers, especially emerging young leaders who are struggling with the feedback or they are facing the confrontation or they are in the conflict zone right now. So what is your advice as a author of the book which you would like to give to them for someone who is struggling and afraid to speak, especially in these struggling and challenging times and moments?
Yeah.
Because I sense that this book is not only for the corporate world, but it is also for those people who are struggling to speak up in these moments.
Yes, thank you for reading that. And my heart is really out to those of you who are in these very, very trying situations. And I don't think it's right, and I don't wish it on you, but I need you to know that your struggles will make you, getting through your struggles will make you stronger. Okay, so there is light at the end of the rainbow, and keep the hope and keep the faith, most importantly. And I think my number one thing on the me part is just to take care of you. And I know that's hard. So it can be, it can feel very dark. And the ability to find whatever lights you up, a conversation with a friend, a walk, a smell of a flower, anything to help you stay high in your own emotional state, because you can't control all this stuff. So doing what you can, love the ones you're with and take care of yourself first and foremost is big because from a place of greater health, mentally and physically and spiritually, we can then do our best work, right? It's very hard sometimes to respond in the best way when we're compromised. And then I think that idea of testing for the safety is important. And I am not here for anyone to literally put themselves out there and make a huge risk.
Yeah.
And only you can really make that judgment. So the thing about,
Yeah.
hey, you can observe. I'm observing this. Is that what you're observing? Maybe you see something in a certain light. It's so obvious
Yeah.
to you, but maybe that other person doesn't see it that way. And so now you're able to say, well, wow, that's so fascinating. Say more and say, I'm hearing you. I'd love to share how it's landing for me so you can understand what it's like for me. So you see how
Yeah.
we're not even solving anything? We're trying to
Yeah,
meet
exactly.
people where they are. We can't really meet them where they are if we don't know where they are.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I think that that is a starting point and being open. So if you're like, I'm worried about, or just say it, I'm worried. I don't want to offend. I'm worried that this might not come out the right way. I'm, you know, but my intention is I want us to, feel love and I want us to get along and I want us to be able to, live in peace. And
Yeah.
and you just that's your it's your experience. It's always fair to share your experience without making someone else wrong or bad. And starting
Exactly.
to inch in, and so you inch in, you go an inch, and you stay high. And someone
Yeah.
throws a barb at you, it's easy to respond to a barb. Whoa.
Exactly.
So pause for a moment. I'm really taken aback. I don't really know what to say. Pause and give yourself time to settle before you respond. Because what happens is barb respond with another barb, it goes downhill very quickly. And to be
Yeah.
able to just breathe, keep a
Yeah.
neutral, compassionate sense and try to work with it. And so, I want to be able to be helpful. I need a little bit. I need a little bit of time. Give me a moment. Give yourself some time,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. Yeah. So, thank you so much, Molly, especially in these troubling times when we are challenged with a lot of things going around with us, especially the communication floods that are hitting us so fast. And especially when we are into the age of AI, where communication has polarized us, where we are into digital world, the young people are struggling to find the human communication, the authentic connection with each other. So, how would you like to advise the young people, especially in this age, to help them to express themselves in a better way without any fear or judgment? Or how would you guide them to navigate these challenging communication times? Because what I believe is that digital communication, the age that we are living, saying it skillfully, say it skillfully. The book is so important. And so does your advice for the young people who might be listening to us right now.
Yes, thank you. The young people out there, you are our future. We are counting on you because I feel that we're leaving you a little bit of a tough bag to hold. So I want
Exactly.
you to know that we believe in you, and we want to see you spread your wings and fly. And how you learn how and when best to use your voice is super important. So investing that is big. The digital world, I think we can just stop blaming it. It is what it is. It's how people use it or not. I do think that it has enabled the younger generations to not have as much practice in actually interacting with
Yeah.
other human beings. And so I would offer that taking time to actually look someone in the eye and have a conversation and like observe them and have them observe you. I mean, I know that for some of us who didn't grow up digital natives, that seems like so basic, but I know that these folks, you're just on a screen and it doesn't help you. It doesn't help you if you're not able to connect with other human beings, if they can't connect with you, and it is a skill.
Yeah.
So you go out there and whether it's a relative, a friend, a shopkeeper, just interact with people, connect with people. And so people are what say, hey, how are you? Pause. I'm noticing this about you. Open doors in a way that's friendly, in a way that's I care about you and I want to know you. Not everybody's going to respond. That's okay. So don't force
Yeah.
yourself, but get out there and practice relating. And when someone says something, you don't worry about what am I going to say. Wow, that's really interesting. I never thought about it that way. Say more are two of my absolute favorite words, right? Notice the
Yeah.
positive. I love that, whatever, blouse, shirt, and start a conversation with the appreciation of someone else, right? You know what it's like when someone
Yes.
says,
Yeah.
look how beautiful that scarf looks on you. You're like, thank you so much, right? That's just going to start. Well, now, number one, it has to be genuine, right?
Yeah.
Because people can feel if someone's gaming the system. But that's when, if
Yeah.
you're in good relationship yourself, and as a young person, I want to be able to connect with more people. I realize I'm a young person, and if I can learn from some of these people who are not as young, that's going to make a better me. So I would offer
Yeah.
to you, even if it looks like, don't judge a book by its cover, even if it looks like that person has nothing in common or would not have anything that
Yeah.
I could learn from, I would challenge you. I would challenge you
Yeah.
on that, right? And so I think for our
Yeah.
young people, you are our future, and I think that idea of the humility to appreciate that you don't have all the answers, and I was a young person who knew all the answers, like for sure. So that humility, but intertwine that with the self-confidence to know that you can
Yeah.
work with others to get the answers is a great combination.
Yeah, thank you, Molly, for such a wonderful advice, especially to the young people who are always struggling and having the energy to say something, but they get feared. But anyway, my question to you is that how, for example, you have also talked about in your book about the cultural communication as well. And related to that, what are the few of the examples that you would like to share about that specific
Yeah.
aspect of the book?
Culture stuff is so great. And I consider myself a global citizen with great humility because I still have not so many parts of the world. But I think that number one, showing interest and trying to honor that people do things differently. And
Yeah.
it's hard to necessarily know what you don't know. So perhaps you had a chance of studying a place you're going to go and you know more of the practices and how people behave. But if you don't, part of it can be, I'm here in your country. I apologize. I don't really have as much of an understanding. So I would really appreciate your help. Tell me about some things that how, you do or don't behave or how things land for you. Or please know that if I've said something that you take offense to, I absolutely did not mean that. And it would mean a great deal to me if you let me know that was something that wasn't so appropriate. I want to
Exactly.
learn, and I can only learn with your help. So I think that again, how you show up for hot, this energy or vibe that you show up with is your number one superpower. And
Exactly.
people can feel like, oh my God, she wants to help me, or oh, she realizes she has no idea what's going on, right? There's nothing worse. And someone jumps in, well, this is what's going to happen, and I know
Yeah.
everything. And, everyone's like,
Yeah.
we don't really want to deal with you,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So that's something that we can absolutely control in ourselves if we've taken a few moments
Yeah.
to sit back and think, okay, I'm going into the situation. What's going on for those other people? What's going on for me, right? And do some of that preparation work so that we can really be intentional. And by the way, folks, we all mess up. Okay, so this is not about being perfect. So let's say you overstep your bounds. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I cannot believe I just said that. Uh, I own that 100%. I made that mistake, right? I'm sorry. I'm going to do everything I can to rectify it. Own it.
Yeah.
Everyone makes mistakes, okay? We don't want to be making the same mistakes over and over. Okay, that's
Yeah.
not really so acceptable. That's not going to keep
Yeah.
you at your job. But if you're a boss and someone's making mistakes, you honor that they're pushing it. Okay, this is great. You're pushing it. What have you learned? What are you going to do differently? Okay, let's move forward. And I would offer if
Yeah.
folks aren't pushing it and making some mistakes, perhaps you're not being as aggressive, potentially innovative as you can be because the mistakes,
Exactly.
the struggles, that is where we learn and grow the most.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Molly. Um, Amazing in a sense that sometimes people misunderstand the cultural nuances that are existing, and sometimes they understand but they don't do it. I mean, it's like mix up a most of the time what is required from a leader to understand and also accept that as well. So, about your book, and you have touched, I mean, thousands of people across the industries, across the cultures, and you are met, I mean, you are intercontinental, you're global citizen, as you said. So, what legacy do you believe that you will be leaving through Say It Skillfully? I mean, this is such an amazing and important project and book, which I think that, especially coming from a region which has recently saw a near brink war, Say It Skillfully is so close to my heart. So, what is the legacy that you hope to leave this world
Yeah, I
with?
appreciate you asking that. So, this notion, my vision of this world winning as one is that people can speak without fear and feel heard. And we work together to make good ideas great. We let go of what doesn't serve us. And we create extraordinary value and meaning in life, far beyond what any one person can do. And for me, the way to that is when each and every person has learned how and when best to use their voice, because it is the most life-changing skill. It benefits our relationships, our careers, and every single thing we do. And so I want to help everyone realize this is a skill and you need to learn it. I can't learn it for you. And by the way,
Exactly.
Farhat speaks up in a way that Molly can't. Molly speaks up in a way that Farhat can't. So it's so personal. And it's, your greatest gift to yourself because part of that gift is getting to know yourself and how you communicate. And we codified this one basic phrase is that when you say it skillfully, performance improves, life improves, and everyone wins. And so that idea that they don't get it, so and so that we all have this mutual accountability for each other and for collectively creating a world that we're proud of, that everyone can have a say in their future. I mean, that's really what I hope to inspire. And I do. I've said to folks, and I try this hopefully not in an arrogant way, but I want it to be a world-changing book. I want people to realize that you matter and that you can make a difference for the greater good, not to kind of put yourself up and others down. And I think that creating
Exactly.
transparency for people who want that, which also means
Exactly.
transparency for the folks who don't want that. I mean, transparency breeds self-correcting behavior. People are going to if they
Exactly.
realize that the things that they do that aren't so good are everyone's going to see it, they're like, maybe I'm not going to do that. And so I think we all have
Yeah.
this role. We're being part of the problem and part of the solution to create this world that we're all
Yeah.
proud of, that we can all flourish. So that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, Molly. And finally, one question that I would like to ask you is that what is the one conversation that the world is not having? And do you think that that is so urgent and important right
Yeah.
now? So, what is the one conversation that we really need to begin doing as immediate as possible?
Yeah,
We
I
all.
appreciate this big time. And so this idea of, and I'll use the phrases people use, this DEI, right? And
Yeah.
so I think that the idea of embracing our differences is so
Yeah.
fundamental to success. It's
Yeah.
absolutely fundamental. Difference of people, places, ideas, experiences. So I would ask people to drop the labels. I would ask people to ask for clarity and understanding because in any workplace, we want our folks, our people, to be their full selves, to have the folks who rise and get promoted be people who are lifting up other people. And I believe that does takes a diversity of people. And I think it's become weaponized such that, right, so and so was only hired because she was a woman. Or so and so kept a job shouldn't have kept a job, but they were afraid to fire her. I'm using women in this example. I have many, older white male friends. I feel like they have lost their voices. They can't say something. Oh, you're against this or that. And that's not right. And that's on all of us. So when you hear someone kind of flinging around words, well, you have to say, hey, wait a second. I'm not sure I'm understanding. Say more. And you
Yeah.
have those people open up and bury themselves because we all want people who are absolutely capable of doing the job.
Exactly.
Absolutely. In some jobs, folks, we maybe don't need the most capable. Some jobs, maybe you need the number one software programmer on the planet to do X. But maybe you need a software programmer in this range. As long as a
Yeah.
person can do that range, maybe the call for the best candidate is someone who was a refugee from Sierra Leone. Because of their life journey, we think that the way they think and their values and their culture will add to our team in a way that we think is going to help us do our best work. Okay? Be transparent when someone comes in, why people leave, and because otherwise people make it up. And
Exactly.
I'm bit on, there's no one more upset, when perhaps there's a woman who shouldn't be in a job. The other women hate that. Okay, that is not what anyone wants. No one wants people who shouldn't be in a
Yes.
job to be in the job.
Yeah.
And it's not fair for other people to kind of assume that. So I think if everyone can kind of take an inch, exhale, and say, hey, we really
Mm.
want to create an environment where we can really thrive. There are some people think of it as a win-lose. Think of it as a win-win. How can we create win-wins? Use that win-win mentality. Don't get sucked into win-lose.
Agree.
Because if you
Yeah.
create the constraint of it will be a win-win, you can create that. And I want to encourage everyone to own that and to be positive
Exactly.
about it, not defiant about it.
Yes. Oh my goodness, this is such a powerful, deeply enriching conversation, Molly. And I would not, to be honest, we can continue ever speaking all the time. Your wisdom, your clarity, your humanity is a gift to everyone listening and is a gift to someone who has always got inspired from you for all your talks, all your conversations, all your wisdoms. Thank you so much, Molly, for your time and for your wisdom and for your guidance always. And to all the audience who are listening to us right now, thank you so much for being with us. And let us carry forward this important mission. Say it skillfully, lead with empathy, and also shape the world that we are always envisioning, and which is all where every voice, be in the companies, be in the countries, are heard, valued, and they're empowered. So in our conversation, I'll be putting down the link, that the book that you can order, and also you can listen to the free preview that Molly has kindly shared with people around. So it's a best-selling author, best-selling on the Amazon right now. And it is not that the value or best selling, but it is the value in essence, a gift that Molly has shared with us, the wisdom that is always there. Thank you so much, Molly, for being with me and having this important conversation.
Heartfelt thank you to you for how you inspire me. And I want to share my gratitude with all the folks who are listening. And I'm cheering for you to be who you are and skillfully say what needs to be said. And if I can be helpful in
Thank
any
you
way,
so
please
much,
know.
everybody. Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much, Molly, for always being so kind and for supportive. And we'll be coming again another conversation about various things that I always encourage young folks to learn, especially the communication skills that we had discussed today. If you are just entering into the positions, or you are leading the teams,
Mhm.
or you are leading a country, or as a citizen of this world, this is such an important and powerful book and also a skill that you all need to learn.